All right, happy Monday. Let's talk about the scale and why we should throw it away. All right, so first of all, what we see and what we don't. Okay, weight comparisons, and then what healthy can feel like, trying to measure our health in other ways, because we just cannot be compacted down to one number on the scale. We put way too much emphasis on this number for what purpose, right? Like, really, what are we chasing when we're chasing a number? It's just kind of the wrong approach to trying to gain health, better health. That number is one very insignificant piece, that number on the scale, very insignificant piece when you think about like the entirety of whole deep health. Okay, so this is a quote that really got me thinking about this sort of thing. And it's, I hear it all the time from this man named Sal Di Stefano. He is part of Mind Pump Media, and he's a great influencer on my own health journey. He's got a lot to say. He's very, very knowledgeable. And he's a celebrity fitness instructor and health expert. And he says all the time, if you chase health, and aesthetics will follow. And it really got me thinking, because we, like, in general, we kind of approach health in like the totally opposite way, right? We're like, well, I want to look like that. Or I want to do what they're doing, right? And we see something and we're influenced by what we're seeing, and we try to chase that, right? We're trying to chase what other people look like, or we're influenced by what other people look like. And our health is a complete bystander in that process. Instead, what we should do is flip that. And we should start making choices that support our health goals. And then the aesthetics will naturally follow along, right? So we've got it flipped. So you need to chase health and the aesthetics will follow. What do I mean by that? Let's start off a little bit with just some celebrities who've had some things to say about their own bodies. So you can search, there's so many different celebrities out there. I was trying to choose ones that were maybe relevant to the times. But I think it's important, and I love that a lot of celebrities come out and say that this is not realistic, and this is not, this is not necessarily the journey that I wanted to take. You can find a lot of people who speak out about the way they have to treat their bodies in the industry. This one spoke to me because I had no idea. So Gigi Hadid is this runway model, very famous. I'm sure you've all heard of her. Beautiful woman, but I didn't realize that she had an athletic background and that she had to intentionally change her composition. She had to pare down her muscle in order to fit the idea of a runway model. And that's a little bit crazy to me, because she was a competitive volleyball player, and apparently her body was just too muscular, so it made her not runway somehow. And so to have this beautifully perfect or like healthy woman have to change that aesthetic to fit a certain thing, it spoke to me. But she said, this is a quote from her. At the time I was still starting out in my career, I was coming out of high school, I still had my volleyball body. It was a body that I loved. I knew how hard I worked to have those muscles to be curved in those places. I kind of miss it now. People were hard on me and tried to say that I didn't have a runway body, right? So just trying to fit these aesthetics, you start healthy and then you have to manipulate yourself in certain ways to fit, what we are all aspiring to be. This one's powerful. This was Zac Efron after he did Baywatch. And he said, I don't ever want to be in that good of shape again. It was hard. You're working with no wiggle room. You've got things like water under your skin. You have to worry about water retention. If there's too much water under your skin, you can't even see the muscle. This is the same thing that bodybuilders go through. So you're worrying about making your 6-pack into a 4-pack. It's just stupid. It's not real, right? So I love these types of stories, because these are people that we see, that we're influenced by, that we think that we want to be like, and they're publicly speaking about how unrealistic these are. And you can also find a lot of stories on how miserable it is. Like Jason Momoa has his own stories about how unhappy he was with the way he had to eat in order to fit the aesthetic for was Aquaman. He's been very vocal about how uncomfortable that process was for him and how unreasonable it was. This is Chris Hemsworth on Becoming 4. Right back then, I just ate huge steaks, chicken breast, and broccoli, and I didn't feel great. Again, these are people that have these beautiful aesthetics and they don't feel good about it, right? A lot of the people that we look at, they're like, oh man, he's got these chiseled abs, and oh no, she's, beautiful curves. And they work really, really hard in ways that are not sustainable and not fun and not healthy. A lot of them come out of it with messed up hormone profiles because they've had to manipulate their body in so many weird ways. They don't feel good. They have very low energy, right? So we are chasing these aesthetics when the people who have these aesthetics are telling us it's not good, it's not comfortable, it's not fun. Here's she's a physique competitor, Dana Lynn Bailey. I follow her. She's amazing and she's so fun and she's so real and she works really, really hard. She won Mr. Olympia back in 2013 and she ended up hurting herself, she gave herself this called rhabdo, and it's like a muscle thing, and it's this syndrome that she accidentally did to herself because she was overtraining. And again, this is just these people who we can say, wow, man, they must really work hard for that. And also, it's not healthy, right? This is the other side of unhealthy. I think like Channing Tatum, he's spoken out about how his like Magic Mike body, very unrealistic, very hard to maintain. The food sucked, it was bland, right? So it's just, we have to stop chasing the aesthetics, okay? This is an interesting one because this is the things that you don't see when it comes to these bodybuilding or physique competitions. Okay, so these are some people who their stage look versus their, or about to go to stage versus them not shortly after. So this is, I should have put their names down. That was very silly. I apologize. This is a competitor. This is on the left there is about when she's about to go on stage, and on the right is 8 weeks after when she was. This is totally normal. This is the cycle of these physique competitors and bodybuilders. Is they peak, they have like a one-day peak where they try to look the best they can, and they do that by manipulating their bodies in very serious ways using water and salt and all of the things, but it's not something that they maintain because it's not something that they can maintain, right? It's not reasonable, it's not healthy. And a lot of them, they have to, if they're not being coached properly to get out of that, to come out of a competition, they can really do some serious damage to their bodies. And if this is 8 weeks apart, she gained about 28 pounds because binging is a normal part of like that kind of that process. This is 2 days apart, 2 days apart. This woman on stage on the left, 2 days later on the right, after she started eating again and she stopped, she was past her that peak day. They have that very short window where they look like these incredibly muscular people, but that's not their everyday norm. And it's important to understand that because that's how we're always presented, right? The people that we're seeing on the TV or in the magazines, or, Photoshop aside, we don't even need to talk about how a lot of the things that we're seeing in magazines are all just fake anyway, right? But these are real people who have to put themselves through hell in order to look this way for one day. And they'll tell you it's not healthy and it's not fun and it's very, very difficult. Here's a male, same thing. This is on the left when he's stage ready, and on the right, 30 days later. Right? It's just, there's so much fluctuation there. We don't always see that part of it, the after part of what happens when they reach their peak physique. And we do this like weight, I want to do weight comparisons too. So our weight on average, we fluctuate 6 pounds a day. That's on average. If you've got more mass, that can swing a lot further. For some people can fluctuate 20 pounds a day. And that's normal for them, right? So we have to stop like being so hard on ourselves if we step on the scale and we're like, oh man, I'm up 2 pounds. Yeah, but are you really? Let's consider some things. Like if you do any sort of intense activity where you've done some sort of muscle breakdown, we retain more water to help repair that, right? That's a totally normal part of the process. If you just happen to have a little more sodium that day or a little more salt, right? We retain more water to help balance out the salt. And side note, salt's not bad for you. It's just that if you eat a lot of processed foods, there's a lot of sodium in them. So if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you do tend to get a lot more sodium than you need. If you're eating a whole foods-based diet, then you need to make sure you're actually adding salt to your diet because you're probably not getting enough. Anyway, point is if you just overdo it a little bit on the salt, you can do water retention. Our body needs it to help balance out the salt there. If you're dehydrated, your body will signal to hold on to more water. Right? I know it's counterintuitive, but actually, if you've got a lot of bloat and you haven't had a lot of water, one way you can start releasing that bloat, drink water. If you have some food intolerance, we retain water. If you skip on sleep, Sleep is imperative to hormone balances, and we do a lot of that reparation while we're sleeping. If we're not sleeping, our body can't regulate, and if we can't regulate, it holds on to water, right? So, if you're taking medications, if you've got a hormonal, if you're about to start your period, carbs take a lot of water for storage and use. So carbs can increase water bloat, stress, which triggers cortisol, which creates more water retention. These are all things that can impact our daily weight. So the scale is just a terrible measure, because you can step on in the morning and be, 6 pounds lighter than when you were in the afternoon. And did you gain 6 pounds in that day? No, not of fat. It's water retention, because our body's doing what it needs to do. It's normal. And this is the interesting thing too, is that it's very complex, right? You can eat the same thing every single day, and you can match your same workout somehow intensity wise every single day, right? And maybe one night you just don't get as deep a sleep, right? Maybe you've got a little bit of stress, or you've got something on your mind, you just don't reach as deep a sleep. Or maybe you just go to bed a little bit later, and the next day it might look like you've gained weight. Have you? Probably. No, you just didn't sleep as well that night, right? These little things can create big swings on the scale. And we put so much emphasis on this one number, and it's a terrible measure. I would love it if my clients didn't ever even weigh. There are other measures to check to make sure that you're moving in the good direction of health, right? This one measure where we get obsessed about for whatever reason, like where are these numbers, like where's your goal weight even coming from, right? Like what is even dictating that? What are we chasing when we're chasing a specific weight? It's impossible. It's just impossible to maintain one single weight all the time. We have to live. And in that living, our body does things. And in that, we change our water retention. So it's just so easy for us. Again, like some people can swing 20 pounds a day. And that's totally normal, right? It depends on all these things. So I just get so sad, because, we tend to beat ourselves up like, oh man, it's up 2 pounds. Like, yeah, okay. And also 2 pounds is 2 pounds. Like, not a big deal. I said that if you're actively trying to do some sort of body recomposition, right? If you're like doing the resistance training, or you're getting in a little more movement throughout the day, and you're eating more protein to support your muscle mass, a lot of what can be happening, and you feel like you're doing the right things and you're not seeing the scale change. Well, you have to keep in mind that muscle is more dense than fat. That's fluffy, and muscle's very, very dense. Okay, so muscle will take up less space. For pound, muscle takes up less space than fat does. So if you're going through like a body recomposition and you're gaining muscle, right, and losing fat and looking different, the scale could still not be moving, right? And if you're trying to allow that one little number dictate your progress, and you're not recognizing that all of these other subtle changes that are going on within your body, right? You could maybe feel deflated. And why? If you know you're making choices to support your health, you should feel good in those decisions, right? We shouldn't let this one number derail all of our progress just because we feel like it should be moving in a certain direction. Chase health, and aesthetics will follow. Okay, so these are the ones that are a little bit, I love these pictures because it's real. These next pictures are why I encourage my clients to take pictures. I know it's uncomfortable and you don't necessarily have to share them with anybody but yourself, but when you can see the differences, it's so nice to have an objective perspective where you can notice how things could be shifting even if the scale isn't. Okay, so these are all just people who are taking pictures of themselves at about the same weight, but very different bodies, right? Same weight, but very different bodies. So this guy on the left here, both pictures, he's 229. I do wish that he had posted himself standing so you could do a direct comparison, but you can even see in the shoulders and the arms, he's got a lot more muscle in his body, right? Much healthier physique in that right-hand side, same weight, right? So if you're putting too much stock in that number, right? The guy on the right has no reason to be sad that he's still at 229. He's completely changed the way his body looks. The woman on the right, same thing. This photo, she's same weight, I think 140 pounds or something like that, right? Same weight, very, very different body. She's got more muscle on her frame, okay? And it's dense. It's taking up less space than the fat does, and she looks completely different. It's a totally different body. Okay? This one on the right here, this gentleman here, the one on his before picture is 149 pounds, and on the left is 147 pounds, very different physiques. Okay? One is more muscular. So we can't put all of our stuff on the scale. My favorite one is this one on the right. And again, I could have put so many. If you just Google same weight, different body, you'll get so many different stories of people who kept on pursuing health and made these beautiful changes, even though the scale was selling them otherwise, right? This woman on the right is amazing. She started off 145, she's a little dropped to 122, and she started adding resistance training and building up her muscle, and she got back up to 140, right? And there's, you know, if you were letting numbers run the game, you might be upset by that. But she's beautiful and healthy, right? She's making these healthy changes. So please stop letting that number, especially if you think about how much you can fluctuate in a day, right? Up to on average 6 pounds a day. Keep that in mind, right? If you're one to weigh yourself, I personally don't necessarily encourage it. I think it creates kind of an unhealthy, it can create an unhealthy obsession with those numbers. In general, I prefer that people really do body self evaluations instead of weight evaluations, because to me that number doesn't really mean anything. So let's talk about what it can feel like, right? We know that one number is just a poor marker of overall health. It really, really is. It can fluctuate by hour. It based on things just like, did you have a little bit more water? Or, you know, did you have a little bit more sodium? Did you move a little too much today? And your body is trying to, you know, hold on to water to repair. It's silly. And when you see like, oh no, I gained 10 pounds. Did you really gain 10 pounds overnight? Not a fat, okay? Break up with this thing, just let it go. I'm actually super grateful. We got my kids rollerblades and like a skateboard for Christmas, and they were zooming around the house on them, and one fell on my scale and shattered it. And I'm actually super grateful that I did that, because it had no meaning to me anymore. It was just kind of this thing in the bathroom now, and I don't have to be consumed or even tempted to care about that number anymore. Instead, you can really measure yourself in different ways, right? Measure things like energy levels, measure things like, how are your clothes fitting? Are they fitting a little bit differently? Are they a little bit looser? Are they feeling a little bit, you know, better? How do you feel in your clothes, right? There's so many other ways to judge whether or not your health is moving in the right direction, right? And if you want to do things like get blood drawn and find biomarkers and all that stuff, totally go for it. Those are much better indicators than this one silly little number that we all put far too much stake in. Okay? So what can it feel like? Well, healthy can feel like morning energy. Did you know that you can wake up feeling energized? That's a thing, right? Even as busy parents, it is possible to wake up energized. Who knew, right? Where you don't have to feel like you have to hit the snooze button all the time. That's a thing. Food freedom, right? What healthy can feel like food freedom. So you can eat a variety of foods when you want them, with whom you want them. You feel like you have control and you can make good choices for your body in varying circumstances, right? You can still go to the restaurants and figure out how you can feed yourself in a way that isn't going to make you feel crummy later, right? This is one of my favorite parts of my own journey, is feeling like I'm not a slave to it anymore. I don't fear food anymore. And I cannot tell you how powerful that is. Just the freedom to eat and eat well in any situation is amazing. And that's a healthy relationship. That's having a healthy relationship with food. It's incredible. You can get deep sleep. right? It's amazing how much our diets impact our sleep. And then when we are not getting enough sleep, then our bodies aren't functioning well, and then we hold on to more weight. And it's just this huge cycle that we put ourselves in: poor diet, poor sleep, poor health, right? So if you start like, am I getting better sleep? Am I falling asleep a little bit easier? Am I feeling a little more well rested in the morning? These are better measures any day than what that number looks like on the scale. It's, who cares? Ooh, this is an important one. Bowel movements. We can learn a lot about our health through our bowel movement. If you've got painful ones, or if they're not very regular, right? This could be an indicator that we've got maybe some health issues going on that we might want to address, right? When you've got these healthy, regular bowel movements, this is a good indicator that our digestive system's working well. This is a good measure of health. No afternoon crash, right? If we are doing this roller coaster with our energy, it's an indicator that we've got some health markers that we might want to look into, right? It is absolutely possible to maintain energy throughout. Like, what? Who knew? You can have sustainable energy throughout the day? Yeah, actually, that's a thing. It's one of the ways that we can measure health. Right? How are you feeling? Better mental health. This is a huge one. This one's a huge one for me. So I have battled depression. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16. I was with major episodes, and I was on and off antidepressants for a good decade there. And it's just incredible once you start feeding your body well, and once you start treating your body well, the positivity that brings as a whole, right? When I'm talking about health, I'm not talking about just physical health. I'm talking about there's a psychological health factor here that is absolutely supported by eating well. Okay, so you can feel more positive in general. It's like incredible the mind shift that you can have when you're fueling yourself properly. That was a huge one for me too. Because it's not that I'm antidepressants. That's not at all what I'm saying. Absolutely, there's a need for them. Some people really do need that to help control, the chemical mechanisms. Totally fine. But I was in a bad mental state because I was in a bad, health place. I truly believed that. So that was also a really big part of my journey. But you really do get mental boosts from the act of just fueling yourself better. That's a big one. There's physical empowerment connected. When you feel like you can take on whatever comes your way, that's amazing. When you feel like you can maintain control over your own body in any situation, that's amazing. When you see maybe some sort of physical feat that you want to conquer and you have confidence that you can actually go out and do that, that's amazing. There's so much power in feeling like you're healthy. Okay? And this is a big one too. You can get increased libido, right? Healthy feels good, and it makes you feel good. If you've got a healthy hormone profile, right, then that can reflect in your libido, right? So maybe there's been a little bit of a lag and you start addressing your health, right? Chase health and aesthetics will follow. Chase health and all these benefits will follow too, right? This is just an incredible journey, and there's so much more to it than the aesthetics. Right? That's just one piece of the puzzle. That silly little number that we let have so much power over us is such a tiny piece of the puzzle. Step back and truly evaluate how your health is. Or how do you wake up? Are you feeling energized? How are you sleeping? How do you really feel about food? Right? If somebody asks you to go to a social event where there's going to be food, do you have any anxiety around that? Do you have any anxiety around eating around people, or about going to a restaurant and not knowing what you can, choose? Okay? Are you getting deep sleep? How's your mental health? Right? How are your bowel movements? Do you feel like you have any physical empowerment? How's the energy in the afternoons? How's your sex life? These are all very good indicators for health. And so I really, really want to encourage people to kind of step back get rid of these scales. They're terrible indicators of health. They truly are. It's just the tiniest piece of the puzzle of health. And start looking at the bigger picture, right? And shift that mindset. Like, we don't need to chase the aesthetic, right? Especially because the people, like I said in the beginning, the people who have that aesthetic aren't even happy with it. It's hard to maintain. It's uncomfortable and it's boring, right? They don't have food freedom. They can't. Right? Because whoop, you eat too many carbs, now you've got too much water under your skin, and now you're not popping on camera, and whoop, 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 right? It's exhausting. A lot of them, you talk to them and they have no energy. Why? Because they're not eating that much. They can't, right? They eat again. They have a little bit too much sodium, and now they're retaining water, and now they're not popping on camera. It's not healthy. Okay? That aesthetic, not healthy. That number on the scale that you're chasing, not healthy. Health is so much more than that. You are so much more than that. So just chase good choices for your body and eat whole unprocessed food as often as you can. Choose better. Most of the time, chase the health. Evaluate yourself using some of these markers instead of the scale. Throw it out. Who cares? Who cares? How do you feel? Okay? And once you start shifting that mindset, I really do feel like you can have control over your health. When you shift the mindset to stop caring about these superficial numbers and these superficial aesthetics, and instead want to chase a truly better life, deep health, deep health, mental health, physical health. That's true health, not the way, not that number. Nobody cares about that number. You just gotta let that go. Anyway, there you go. Please break up with the scale, and really give yourself the freedom to chase the health. Okay? As always, if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to send me a message or share in the group. Let us know how things are going. Let us know if you're struggling with anything. I'd be happy to send support. Or there's a lot of great people in the group who are quick to support too. We're here as a community to help all of us try to chase better health. That's really my ultimate goal. I want people to feel all of these things. I want people to feel food freedom and better their mental health and have better health markers. And that's why I'm here. So let me help you. Anyway, have a great week, you guys. Yeah, until next time, eat more, eat well, eat happy. Bye.